I mean, like, I don't hear that often. So.
All right, is everybody here? I've been advised to
Step on.
talk into this. It's time to reconvene. Let's start with an introduction of commissioners, staff, all our commissioners here.
Oh, do you want me to start? Okay. Good evening. I'm Deborah Bolton from Garden City.
Don Budd, Kansas City.
Tom Dill, Salina.
I'm Gerald Lauber from Topeka.
Randy Dahl, Leon.
Roger Marshall, Great Bend.
Robert Wilson, Pittsburgh.
Sheila Camus, Commission Secretary.
Robert Jensen, Topeka.
Chris Tymason, Legal Counsel.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I just want to say, you made reference today to the small print on the green licenses. And I want to let you know that based on the comments that we had at, where were we, Chris? Where was it?
2 meetings ago.
I don't remember, but yeah. Cindy said El Dorado.
El Dorado.
Based on the comments that we got at El Dorado, we did work with, Cindy, help me out.
Taxi on the Coles line.
Yes, on the Coles, and we have modified that now to where it is a larger print because we're kind of near permit. To that end, so based on the comments
Thank
that
you.
we got from customers, that has been taken care of.
Well, I appreciate that because it is difficult, and for those of us that don't always have reading glasses in the field, we usually try to use a Sharpie pencil on the back prior to hunting, and that's good. Okay, this is the time of the meeting that we have general public comment on non-agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they would like to discuss that's not on the agenda? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to briefly.
Would you come up and,
Sure, I'll come and introduce myself. My name's Bill Kerr. I live in Wichita. I'm originally from western Kansas, Hill City, Kansas. Hill City, Kansas mascot, if you're not from Hill City, is the ringneck pheasant. And the problem that we have back where I'm from is that the amount of ringneck pheasants, the population may be the same as it was 30 years ago. I doubt it. It's not even particularly close. There is no access to hunting other than public ground because virtually all the hunting is now leased out. And so you have subsidized the farmers, which is great. Gives them something to do in the off season, but you don't have anywhere to hunt. When I was a kid, you could have hunted anywhere because honestly, you knew everybody and they didn't really care. Now, you have to get paid, but you have an asset that you just don't want to use for whatever reason, and it would make you a lot of money, and you'd have some tourism to come with it. Now, how many of you have hunted in South Dakota? Pheasants? Anybody? Well, when you ask yourself, would I go to South Dakota to go hunting when I could go 2 hours to Hill City or 4 hours to Great Bend or wherever it may be? Then you know you've done something wrong. Because in South Dakota you can hunt the ditches, and that's public land. And I'm told that that's a county by county decision on whether they want to mow that. And I'm here to tell you that's not. Because you're the state of Kansas. You're the Fish and Game Commission. You can tell them, leave that open, don't cut it down. And it does two things. You got habitat and hunting, and then it saves you money because you don't have to cut it. So the guy that you hire in Hill City, which happens to be related to the county extension guy, who also does the trenching and ditch digging, probably doesn't do as much mowing. And I would guess, just off the top of my head, I wish I had statistics, I really do. I didn't really had to plan to come speak to you, to be honest. But I would guess it would also help other wildlife. I would be surprised if the Audubon Society or the Screech Owl Society or some other bird society doesn't think this is a great idea. And if it's not, then South Dakota's been doing something wrong for decades. And their population of pheasants is considerably more than ours. One other thing you might want to consider on the pheasants, which would help the smaller communities, I think, really easy. You can't hunt till 9 o'clock. Keep people in the bars at night, eating dinner in Hill City, eating breakfast in the morning, keeps them in town. I mean, when I was in Hill City when I was a kid, there was a population of 2,400. Now it's 800. So any bit of money you can get headed their direction would be really beneficial. And so my request would be that you look into whether or not it's necessary to cut the ditches down. And as a model program, maybe pick some of the counties that have pheasants that would really help their economy to see if it works. I mean, you don't have to go whole hog, just do a few tests here and there. And I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My question is whether the closing of coyote hunting season is an agenda item or a non-agenda item.
Well, it was a very extensive agenda item this afternoon, and it's already been on the agenda. Did you have a comment?
Several, yeah. My name is Ed Reese. I'm a public school teacher here in Wichita, and I'm from Northeast Kansas. And as I'm listening to where you were from, I've hunted coyotes in every community, including Kansas City at 151st Street. I've hunted at Garden City, and I've hunted Leon now. I hunt coyotes all over. I've hunted coyotes since I was 7 years old. My question to you initially is, what is the problem that you're trying to address? Could someone please tell me that?
Well, the problem we've tried to address is that a tremendous number of complaints have been generated that law enforcement has difficulty with, that use hunting with hunting with radios and vehicles, saying that you're coyote hunting when in fact you're probably trying to skirt the rules for deer hunting. And it's pretty much a detailed and complicated issue. I mean, we spent a couple hours almost this evening on it, this afternoon. But it's basically a law enforcement problem, and we've had an awful lot of complaints. We also have some sympathy for the legitimate dog hunter as well. Our intent is not to stop hunting for coyote hunting, with the exception of using vehicles and radios.
So in other words, you're trying to solve a deer hunting problem by punishing coyote hunters.
Well, that was an oft-spoken comment earlier today.
And the reply was?
We're going to try to see what we can come up with in some ways, not to make the legitimate dog hunter have all the sacrifice.
Can anyone tell me, what does the average deer hunter spend a year in the state of Kansas to pursue deer?
Are you a dog hunter?
I'm a dog hunter.
Yeah, and we had and that's already been covered as well.
I know, but I have a job. I wasn't here at 1:30, sir. What does the average deer hunter in the state of Kansas
Sir, if you've got
spend?
some comments to make, we'd appreciate you making them. We're not here to be quizzed and talked to like we're students. Go ahead, and if you got some comments, share them.
In 2011, I spent $6,800 on dog food, equipment, everything, gas, and everything, $6,800. My comment would be that I don't know if there are very many deer hunters that spend more than a couple tanks of gas and a box of 243 shells.
Yeah, and we understand that, but and frankly, most of us are fairly sympathetic to what I believe your position is. although it's not an issue of how much is spent in the sport, we realize that it does cost more, and I understand, although that's not the motivating factor. What we're trying to do is to solve what is a real problem and not have to punish the legitimate dog hunter as a result. So we're trying to come up with a variety of different ideas, and this afternoon's meeting was, there was certain directives along that line. Now, I understand that you were unable to be here this afternoon, but most people here, we've spent a fair amount of time covering this, and I'm assuming that you are not in support of any changes, and I think that was consistent with what most of the people who were here, what their thoughts were.
And to not ask another question, but I do need background information. Why was the deer hunting ban on coyote hunting ended several years ago?
We've asked that question, and we don't know. I mean, I wasn't on the commission, and I think that was done in, what, 1985?
78, 35.
Is when it was,
And it was allowed again in 1985, and we're going to try to see if we can't come up with, there are some specific reasons. And I'm sure that at that point in time, there's probably some concerns about predator control and this type of thing. So what we're going to try to figure out, but we're not talking about the complete elimination of coyote hunting, but we're trying to figure out the non-traditional dog hunter, the people who are using that. Well, first of all, the traditional dog hunter, we don't believe is particularly the problem, but there are a lot of people who are using coyote hunting as the only sport that allows shooting from a vehicle to somewhat torment law enforcement in a manner that's difficult to deal with. Now, we had no shortage of suggestions as to what law enforcement could do to minimize it, all of which are probably unconstitutional. But we're trying to see what we can do. And at this point, if you have any more comments, that'd be fine, but I'm sort of talked to death on it.
I understand. Well, I would be not in support of a ban on it. And I will share this with you, that I've hunted coyotes, as I've said, all over the state of Kansas. For the most part, in my opinion, or the people that I know, and I know people all over the state, most coyote hunters don't even go out on the first weekend. Most greyhound hunters don't even go out on the first weekend of deer season, because it is a free-for-all out there, and I don't care to get shot at or have my dog shot at.
That's pretty much what we were told, but the problem is the law does permit it, and there are people who say, I'm coyote hunting, and grab some buddies and drive around and stick guns out the window, and there are issues, but it is not necessarily from legitimate dog hunters.
Appreciate your time, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comments? Yes, sir.
My name's Chuck Nelson. I'm from Wichita, and I'm questioning the trap size regulations. That was just changed the year before, but I have a couple comments on that would maybe help these previous people on the man about pheasants and pheasant hunting and mowing ditches.
Sure.
And I think the city and the county are mowing the big ditch, and one of their reasons is to prevent fires. And that's good, but that is destroying that habitat too for deer, coyotes, all this different wildlife that's right inside the city limits. So they could maybe do something like Kansas City did and do kind of controlled mowing and maybe even controlled burns like they do out here at the Nature Center, okay? They could keep that a prairie, they could keep that grass, and they could have little strips that would promote the beaver and the other wildlife, because that's a fantastic resource. And that may be the problem with the county, why they burn the ditches, because they don't want that to get away. And I'm from Iowa originally, back 50 years ago. And before they had the government land where you had put that aside, and they didn't mow the ditches or any of that stuff. They didn't take the fences out. They had a lot of, farm places there, and there were pheasants everywhere. Now I go back up there, and all the farms are gone. They plow right up to the ditch, and they have almost zero pheasants. And they got coyotes instead of fox and all that, so that's my comment on that. And then as far as the coyote hunters, I've done both. And I think maybe a compromise, like on opening day, they don't go anyway. Maybe the first 2 or 3 days, ban at that for part of the time. And then later on, when you sift through all those guys, the guys that want to shoot out of the window and all that, I understand that because that's, I've been witness to some of those abuses. And I can understand what that's like for fish and game. And so maybe that would help them. And also, because the time that occurs is when coyote pelts are prime, and I don't know how concerned they are with the pelts. They're shooting and hunting with dogs. I don't know if you get a good quality pelt with that or not, and Kansas coyotes ain't worth that much, but that might be an argument for their side too. So, but that might be a way to do it. Just cut that down. That first, when I went deer hunting, I'd never go on the first day either, unless I had private property and you were safe. But maybe first couple days do that, and then the last couple open that up or whatever. But I can see we're shooting out of the radios in pursuit, but like you say, shooting out of the vehicle, I can see where that would be a big problem. And then, if you would, I'd like to discuss my issues here. It's trap size regulations. I've talked to a number of fish and game people and some of the trappers and at conventions and everything, and 7 inches is what they have for it. And from them, it sounded pretty arbitrary. No matter who I talked to, I kept getting different solutions. Well, I ran into my buddy here, who's been there, Officer Matt Peck, the fur bearer biologist, and I was talking to him a little bit before that, and he gave me some pretty good straight answers, so that helps a lot. But my concern is a beaver. I have some literature and everything there if we need to see it, but a beaver's, you wanted to get a hind leg catch on them, okay? You can't always get a front leg. A beaver will drag mud and so on, put it up on the bank, and they'll mark it. And any other beaver comes along and marks that, they will track them down and run them off. And you will end up with skins that are bitten and everything. My point is, when they do that, they go on their hind legs. They carry the other stuff in their front legs. And if you got a 5 to 7 inch paw that's 7 inches long, you are not going to get that in a 7-inch jaw spread trap. You might get lucky and it fits right in there, but that's not machine tooling. You're very lucky if that happens. So a lot of the beaver trap manufacturers, now everybody's going to 7.5 and even up to 8.5 inches. So, you say, just keep it underwater. Well, the way the water varies, and you're probably talking at a dam, it's going to go up and down, and that's hard to do. And you might run into that game warden that'll write you a ticket. So you're really handicapping the control work beaver guy. And then also using those traps for coyotes. This winter was a very good example. A lot of freezing and thawing. You can catch a coyote in a little, 5-inch jaw spread number 2 coil spring, because the coil springs, it's strong enough. But if you're out there in winter, you have snow or frost, you got to cover it. You may have 1/2 inch cover on that. And that jaw will not work. That's going to slow it down a little bit. And so you need 7.5 inches to come up through that cover, because your jaw spread is 7 inches. Well, because it pivots in the middle, your height is only 2.5 inches, 3.5 inches. So it's half as much as your jaw spread. So a 7.5 inch would be good for that. But if they could make it up a little bigger, make it larger. And then as far as the conibears going, setting them halfway underwater now, from the current officer here tonight, Mr. Peak, I found out that he was saying they had some problems with some people setting those conibears on a trail that had a little water in it, and it wasn't halfway full. So you've got coon dogs and that running up and down there. But this all occurred on a management area. And I've trapped Cheyenne Bottoms and other places, and that's basically up to them. You know, sometimes they won't even let you trap there because it's managed for ducks. Or they got dog hunters that are coon hunters that come on there. And so they won't let you trap. But that's basically, I think the management needs to take care of that. The game management for that recreational site, or like Cheyenne Bottoms, whatever place that is, Marion Reservoir, Cheney, whatever. Us as individuals, our own private land, we may not allow dog hunters on there. Or we may hire somebody to trap that beaver or that coyote. You know, so on our own land, I mean, even if their dog gets away, they have other legal means that they can deal with it. They can do a criminal suit, you know, reckless, whatever.
Are you asking us to use larger jaw?
Yes,
traps?
yes. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I wasn't very precise, but
Well,
yeah, those are the arguments for it.
I think that's where it is, and what you're asking for. It's kind of died down a little bit now, but and Matt Peak is kind of our trap size expert, but we had a couple of dogs that were killed and some conibears that weren't presumably set in enough water, and it was a never-ending traumatic tale that haunted us for meeting after meeting, and we were trying to do something in response to that, because trying to, you think it's difficult for the coyote hunter. Trapper's rights is something that doesn't get a lot of sympathy around an urban area. So we've tried to respond in such a way that we didn't have to create other trapping restrictions, but I think you've made your point.
Right.
And it will be taken into consideration, although these are just not easy decisions to make, because there's a lot of people that are very concerned about dogs getting away, so and getting injured or killed.
And I would like to say that Officer Peak, they did an excellent job of putting those instructions in there. Education, that they're doing their part, they're doing it right. And he's the first one, like I said, I've been talking to people about this for over a year, and he's the first one that ever gave me real, legitimate reasons. And I've known him for probably 10 or 15 years. He goes to conventions and everything, and I never really brought that up with him. But the other guys I was talking to, that's the way it was. So.
Okay.
But just to, another inch or 2 inches, that would make all the difference in the world. And as far as the conibears, I can understand that too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, all right, let's see here. Who's up first? Linda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Tonight, we're going to do the vote for our Regulation 115-2-3. Specifically, this is our recreational short-term vehicle parking, which we already have in regulation. And if you'll recall, we brought that before you. We had some constituents that came to us, specifically a lot of farm families that would like to leave their utility vehicle, their camping unit at our state parks. And if they do that today, they have to move it every 14 days or pay for the site. This allows, we're going to do it at 5 locations: Meade State Park, Glen Elder, Canopolis, Scott, and Webster, and bring that down from $125 to $50 a month.
Any discussion? Any questions, discussion from the public? Well, somebody want to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any additional discussion from the commission or the public? Sheila?
Commissioner Bolton? Yes. Commissioner Budd?
Yes.
Commissioner Dill?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahl?
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lauber?
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Big game and wild turkey permit application. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This one will go fairly quick, I would imagine. It's just changing some language in the permit application regulation when we went from 4 to 6 turkey units about a year or so ago. We did not update the language in the application reg here, so that's what we're proposing to do today.
Is that the only change?
That's the only substantial change. There's some small wordsmithing things in there.
Move to approve.
Second the motion.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Randy, any discussion from the public? More from the commission? Sheila, go ahead.
Commissioner Bolton? Yes. Commissioner Budd?
Yes.
Commissioner Dill?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahl?
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lauber?
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Peck.
All right, so I've presented the antelope issue to the commission 3 times. This will be the 4th time. I don't have a lot to add. I will remind you that our permit recommendations are a 5% decline in Unit 2, about a 9% decline in Unit 17, and they're the same as what they were last year in Unit 18. If you have any questions about the recommendations, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Matt? Any questions from the public? Somebody want to make a
I
motion?
move to approve.
Second.
Any more discussion? Sheila?
Commissioner Bolton? Yes. Commissioner Budd?
Yes.
Commissioner Dill?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahl?
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lauber?
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Well, you're on a roll, Matt.
All right. Slightly quicker than this afternoon, even. So the elk regulation is also standard as the pronghorn one is. Units, season structures, all the same. And the permit allocations are 10 any elk and 15 antlerless elk. And that's the same number of permits we've allocated for the Fort Riley unit for the past several years. So again, with everything being standard, I would be happy to answer questions if you have any.
Any questions from the public or from the commission? Can I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Sheila?
Commissioner Bolton? Yes. Commissioner Budd?
Yes.
Commissioner Dill?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahl?
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lauber?
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Okay. You got to stand up there all during that discussion earlier, didn't you? I thought about that afterwards. Maybe for those kind of meetings, we can get a bar stool or something. You can kind of lean on it for a while. Yeah. Well, you did a remarkable job. That concludes the public hearing. So, do we have any other housekeeping business we need to take care of, Sheila?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Secretary, Attorney? Our next meeting is June 27th.
Garden City.
In Garden City at the Lee Richardson Zoo. August 1st in Yates Center at the Woodson County Community Center. October 17th in Hutchinson at the Kansas Cosmosphere. We will have a tour that morning at 9 at the underground salt mine. And January 9th is in Winfield at Southwestern College.
Okay, well, I want to thank all the commissioners and staff. It was a good meeting this afternoon.